Good evening. My name is Steve Kahn, and I am the chair of the Planning Commission. I would like to call this regular meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would Deputy City Clerk Megan Wilbanks please call the roll?
Commissioner Cooley?
Here.
Commissioner Houghton will be absent tonight. Commissioner Jorgensen?
Here.
Commissioner Munoz-Morris?
Here.
And Chair Khan.
Here. At this time, we'll hear any public comment for item not on tonight's agenda. Items raised are generally referred to staff, and if action by the commission is necessary, may be scheduled at a future date. Deputy City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
No, Chair, we do not.
All right, thank you. So we're going to move into the review of the consent calendar, and we're going to review the minutes of March 8th, 2023 Planning Commission. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes? Seeing none, do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Oh, wait,
Aye.
Do we need a second first?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Which I'm happy to do.
Okay,
Third, no.
Yeah.
thank you. We got that?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Let's do that over again then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Seeing none, motion passes. We'll move on to the public hearings. Any court challenges to action taken on the public hearing items on this agenda may be limited to considering those issues raised in the public hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the City of San Luis Obispo at or prior to the public hearing. If you wish to speak, please give your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any? No, we don't. No, okay, that's right. So item 4A, this is a public hearing item. Before us is a review of the 2022 General Plan Annual Report. Would Assistant Planner Graham Butma please present the report? And I'm sure I butchered that last name, but thank you.
Everything look good? All right. Thank you, Chair Khan and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Graham Bultema, and the item I am presenting to you today is the 2022 General Plan Annual Report. Staff recommends for the Planning Commission to receive and file the 2022 General Plan Annual Report for final acceptance by the City Council. The purpose of the General Plan Annual Report is to comply with the City Land Use Element Policy 11.3 and with California state law, and to review implementation of general plan programs. There are a total of 8 elements in the city's general plan. This list gives an overview of the elements and when they were adopted, and the most recent update being the Climate Action and Safety Element Update completed in 2023. For Community Development Department staff updates in 2022, staff worked to continue to improve customer service and process improvements throughout the department. Some examples of this include improving review timelines, tracking department key performance indicators, KPIs, and developing the new Ask Slow online information platform. Staff also continue to coordinate with partner agencies on projects throughout the city. Regarding planning and building activity, for planning applications, a total of 210 planning applications were received in 2022. This was a decrease from 2021. This trend's likely due to recent state legislative changes and local legislative changes, increasing and streamlining review, and lowering development review thresholds for projects. Regarding building permits, a total of 534 building permits were issued in 2022, including permits for a net total of 567 residential units. For the housing, for regional housing needs allocation, the city's 6-cycle housing element period began at the beginning of 2019. The housing element update was completed for the 6th cycle and certified by HCD in September 2021. The RENA allocation for the city for the 6th cycle is 3,354 units to plan for, as seen in Table 4 on page 8. And for the 2022 calendar year, the city permitted 522 new housing units towards our quantified objectives. And the city is well positioned to continue to add more affordable or below market rate BMR units towards our RENA allocation in coming years that are currently at various stages of review, as shown in this slide here. These units will be deed restricted for very low, and moderate income households. And we're looking at a total of 526 affordable BMR units in the pipeline. Since adopting the housing element in November 2020, city staff has implemented several housing element programs in alignment with the housing and homelessness major city goal. Table 6 on pages 11 through 13 displays a table and discussion on progress of the housing element programs in 2022. Table shown here is an abbreviated version of Table 6. Some items I want to highlight here include our inclusionary housing ordinance update in July 2022, and the continued development of the flexible density program throughout 2022 with final approval by City Council last night. Homelessness solutions updates from 2022 include adoption of the SLO County Strategic Plan for Homelessness Response, as well as continued progress in 2022 by the Community Action Team and the Mobile Crisis Unit. Regarding residential growth, land use element policy related to residential growth, LUE policy 1.11.2, states that the city's housing supply shall grow no faster than 1% per year on average. In 2022, I want to highlight unit types that are exempt from growth management regulations include affordable dwelling units, new dwellings in the downtown core, and legally established accessory dwelling units. In 2022, 495 residential units were constructed in the city subject to this growth management ordinance. And as of 2022, there are a total of 22,513 units in the city's housing stock subject to the growth management ordinance. This is below the 2022 threshold of 22,643 from the land use element table 3. Since 2015, the city has maintained an average annual growth rate of 0.99% per year in compliance with this 1% maximum average annual growth rate. In terms of non-residential growth, in 2022, 83,948 square feet of net new non-residential floor area was added to the city. This annual growth rate for 2022 was 0.71%, and the 5-year net growth rate was 2.31%, both of which continue to be consistent with the city's land use policies. Regarding some specific plan area updates from 2022, we'll start with the Margarita area. Progress in the Margarita area included continued construction in the Toscano subdivision. And just want to highlight that the largest properties in the Margarita area, the Damon Garcia properties, have still yet to be developed and have an estimated residential capacity of 408 units. When combined with 442 units completed or in process, this total comes to an estimated capacity of 868 units for the entire Margarita area. Progress in the Orchid area included continued construction at Rigetti Ranch, South Moros, and Jones Ranch. And other projects in process in this area include the Pratt Townhomes and the Vinifera Townhomes. And in the airport area, many large projects are also currently at various stages of the development review process, including the Avila Ranch project, as well as 600 Tank Farm project. And excited to report that we're seeing construction already underway in Avila Ranch, and you see a picture here on the slide of one of the new units there. For San Luis Ranch, multiple projects are currently in process with a total of 654 residential units, and all residential development in San Luis Ranch is currently under construction. And in 2022, permits were also issued for the Agricultural Heritage and Learning Center, and this project's also currently under construction. Updates from 2022 also include the Clean Energy Program, which was adopted by City Council in July 2022. This requires new buildings to be all electric. This program was updated to include exemptions and incentives, and the program became effective at the start of 2023. And city staff will return to council before the end of 2025 to report on the progress of this program. In terms of water supply, timely topic, the city's available water supply includes 10,140 square acre feet of water, consistent with the city's current water supply needs. And yeah, reservoirs are very full right now. For transportation and circulation, a couple updates I want to highlight from 2022 include completed construction projects for the Orcutt and Tank Farm roundabout, shown to the left, and the railroad safety trail connecting Cal Poly to downtown. And in 2022, fire department and police department also continue to take steps to protect city residents, reduce crime, and prepare for other potential dangers. The fire department continued to conduct critical safety inspections in the city in 2022, and the police department made progress with various training efforts and continues to promote neighborhood wellness and civility. Conservation and open space highlights from 2022 include development of a carbon farm plan for Johnson Ranch and City Farm Slow, continued progress at the Rigetti Hill open space, and completion of the trail connection between Miyazi open space and Poly Canyon Road. And here we see Miyazi, and encourage y'all to check it out. Parks and recreation highlights from 2022 include several parks and recreation programs starting to return to normal pre-pandemic operations, and continued progress at the Laguna Lake Golf Course in terms of maintenance and renovation projects, and new public art installations in the city continued as part of the public art program. And what you see here is public art installed at the center of that Orchid and Tank Farm roundabout. And to conclude, the general plan annual report conforms with land use element policy 11.3 and state law. And the general plan annual report also provides you, the Planning Commission, with an opportunity to review implementation of general plan programs in 2022. That concludes this presentation. I've provided staff recommendation again here for your convenience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great report. Appreciate it. Do any planning commissioners have questions of staff?
I'll be glad to ask a few.
Yes,
Partly
please.
under the guise of kind of getting updates on things we haven't heard about for a while, and we have till midnight, right?
Yeah. I believe it's earlier than that, but
I can go faster than that.
Yeah.
First, I'm just going sort of from early pages to late pages.
Yeah.
On page 23, there's discussion about coordination with LOSAN, the rail, the 3 or 4 or 5 county rail partnership. And I guess I'm wondering if I see that the final EIR was signed and done deal. And I'm just wondering if our pedestrian bicycle landings have been protected, or we're still alive there and fighting the good fight.
Yes, we're still engaged with LOSAN, and I think we have a meeting with their staff as early as next week to talk about a memorandum of understanding and develop some terms that their board, when they approved the this project and adopted, certified the EIR, directed their staff to work with the city on,
So your letter
on
did
those
get through
issues.
then?
Yeah, the letter got through. The staff is engaged. They weren't willing to commit to specific items in there, like as a board, but they want the agencies to obviously discuss these issues and make sure that ultimately that facility will be successful. So we're continuing to work together and have a number of terms laid out, but we're going to continue to meet until we have something that's final. And so just, for people listening, that's a project, the Central Coast Layover Facility is going to enable expanded service on the route between Los Angeles, San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Luis Obispo, where we're the northern terminus of that route, and having the ability to store additional trains overnight, do some maintenance, do some cleaning of trains within the San Luis Obispo Railroad District, which historically has had a roundhouse and had a lot of rail activity. With that facility being developed, it will allow for more train service, and that's certainly consistent with our transportation goals as well.
Thank you. Nice work.
Thanks. Well, we're definitely getting there.
You showed a table, I think table 4, and then there's another table, table 5, page 27 and 28. And I just couldn't quite I guess it's apples and oranges no matter how you cut through this, but I was trying to figure out, well, how many, the below market rate housing, there's so many dwellings that have had permits issued, but then when I'm looking at table 4 and looking at building permitted units issued, it's sort of different numbers. And it's a little hard to know whether some of those are really not quite affordable by the RINA definition, or I couldn't figure it out. Maybe I just can't add, that could be too. So I'm just curious, that's not your specialty, Graham, I realize. So I'm just more presuming somebody's really checked the numbers and they add up best they can, but they're kind of different looks at complicated things, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the units shown here, count toward are our units towards, different affordability categories, whereas the permits issued, it's not necessarily all, it's not that's like all residential units, whereas this is like affordable units.
Okay, so just different cuts through, and they're not, they don't all add up, I guess, no matter how you define them.
Can you pull up that other, okay. So it's a good question that, I think we can take a closer look at where the 534 is the permits issued, and then we have 522 total units in year 4 that were permitted. So we need to take probably a closer look to just make sure those are in alignment, and if they're not, like why? Yeah.
And the numbers of extremely low, very low, and low don't seem to be near the same as the numbers we're kind of showing as below market rate housing with permits issued. I'm sure there's good reasons for it, but it just caught my eye. Thank you. I still have a couple more questions. So I see on that table 5 that the Anderson Hotel is listed, but it's already occupied by people that are with lower incomes, correct? So are we counting it twice, or do we get to count it again if we give them a new permit for the renovations?
It could be renovations to units.
Yeah, I don't think, let me see, is this total, the 526? Where is that?
It's within the 526, but one of the projects listed is the Anderson Hotel, and it's adding 68 dwellings to active below market rate housing projects in the pipeline. And so I'm trying to figure out well, weren't they low-income residents already that were there? And I know they moved them out with the theory that they can move back in.
And they're moving back in with a city deed restriction for
it's
an
a-
additional
so in a way, it's a
55
change from it-
years.
From
So
what
that
they're
was
in now
a,
to deed restriction, I see. So you can count them again.
I think so. I think,
Okay.
it's well, for one, preservation of existing affordable housing is one of the most important things that we can do in terms of making sure that these are properties that are continually rehabilitated so they don't fall into disrepair, but also as deed restrictions expire, because our agreements are for various terms, that we're able to ensure the ongoing affordability. So in this case, Haslo had a long-term lease on the Anderson Hotel. They were using vouchers to essentially, make the project affordable to the residents of the building, and it's sort of a direct relationship with HUD to support the affordability of that project. The property owners, the lease was expiring. The property owners were, put the property initially on the market and to try to sell it. They pulled back from that initially because as an affordable housing project, there were some steps under state law that needed to be followed. And that actually gave Haslo the opportunity to get all of the funding streams aligned. And when they had the right of first refusal on the purchase, they were able, with county help, city help, federal earmark help, and other sources like Housing and Community Development, State Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD has put money into that project, assuring that there's a minimum number. I think there's at least 8 of the unit. I think it's actually a larger number than that, but I don't want to misspeak, but will be homeless housing units, so for people transitioning out of homelessness. And the city's putting in 1.7 million from our affordable housing fund, part of the ARPA monies from the federal government also, to ensure affordability for a 55-year term now going forward.
I see. So what we're saying really is the people were designated low income, but now the units are deed restricted and are low income, so it's smart to count them. I got it. It makes good sense.
Yeah, thanks. Okay.
Even if it's the same people. They're in a different status now.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you. I noticed on page 32, we talk about the pilot safe parking program. I assume that's the one over by near Miners and in the parking lot there.
Railroad
And
Square.
it's been closed down, right?
Well, the permission for the Railroad Square safe parking site was based on the emergency resolution and declaration associated with COVID. And so when the city council rescinded the emergency resolution, that established a 180 or 120
180.
180 days for that program to transition or wind down. And so that's in progress right now.
I see. So the discussions with neighboring businesses and folks to kind of modify the agreement in some ways or make it work better, did that got us somewhere? Did we learn anything? But at this point, it was strictly a COVID kind of thing. So it's closed down. Got it.
I think there were definitely learnings. I mean, at one point, staff was looking at coming back to the Planning Commission with a use permit request to
Yeah, that's where we
establish
left it, I think.
safe
now.
parking at that location. And based on the outreach that we did, we determined that it wasn't a great fit and that the people in the
Okay.
neighborhood and
Okay.
didn't support it. And so we are pursuing other alternatives for safe parking and trying to ensure that we continue to support safe parking in the community. Right now, there's a program at 40 Prado at the Capslo site, and we'll be looking for other community partners to stand up new safe parking locations going forward. It will continue to be a major city goal, housing and homelessness, and it's part of our strategic plan that the city council actually adopted last night.
Got it. Okay, I'm winding down here. Thank you. That was actually very helpful. I had a quick 2 questions about the Orchid developments, the housing developments over the years. Questions people keep asking me. When will the bike path be through from the existing safety bike path all the way to Tank Farm?
The challenge there is right-of-way that is needed from Union Pacific Railroad, and that's been a difficult negotiation, or I wish I could say we were in negotiation for right-of-way, but we're not. We're working on making appropriate contacts and opening up a conversation and trying to access the right-of-way, but it is a project that's been designed. And everything else that we have is ready and in place. But and there's a potential for a workaround for the specific area where the right-of-way is most important. But that's something we can continue to update the Planning Commission on. And that's the only update I have at this time. Is we don't have the right-of-way to construct it, but it is been designed and it's a requirement. It was that which was a requirement of the Bullock Ranch project.
Mm-hmm. So in our lifetimes, some of us anyhow.
Certainly.
Yeah. And lastly, on Orchid, park completion, the big park. How is that underway or likely to be underway maybe this year or something?
Design is underway.
Design is underway.
Yep.
Okay.
And initial construction is expected to occur in the second year of the new financial plan.
Oh, so 24, 25, ideally. Oh, that sounds good. And then lastly, there was mention of the project at 600 Tank Farm. How about the other three, or how are they coming along? Obviously, nothing's moving right now, but are they further in the pipeline? And
Yes. Yeah.
as
So
far as we know, people are intending to go ahead.
yes. So the gosh, I don't know the specific addresses, but the old 650 Tank Farm is they're pretty close to pulling grading permits. And then the northwest corner is we've done plan check on some public improvements, and in both cases there are building permits in process.
Okay, so we may see something in the next year or two.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, good. Lastly, Froome Ranch. I was just curious how that stands and whether they're moving ahead. You know,
There are,
sometimes we approve
new
something
owners,
and they don't really like it, and then they never move. And
No, that's moving forward. My staff has been, and the engineering team has been engaging on to answer questions about the design of offsite improvements. So there is a team that's working on the initial public improvement plans, and we're expecting applications to come in this calendar year.
Is that the one that Madonna got approved, John?
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
But he's not the owner anymore. The
Oh,
property
he sold it?
Yeah.
Oh.
first
Sounds,
time that's happened.
yeah, he's not a developer, he's an
Yeah.
earth mover.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, because people are asking about the senior housing that could be developed there, and that's the thing that keeps coming up that I keep hearing about. But it sounds like a few years off, because they have those waterway and drainage improvements that got to be done first, it seemed like.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of on-site work for infrastructure, horizontal improvements, as we call them. But yeah, all of that on-site work it'll be a while before there is anything to occupy within that project.
Good. Thank you. That's not even midnight.
As information, the city of Aurora Grande is looking into using churches. The churches came up and said they were looking at offering safe parking for people, so something the city might look into. I don't know if the church community, here wants to do it, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of our, that's kind of the model that we've been looking at, and kind of moving away from the Railroad Square COVID, site, looking at faith-based partners that might be willing to host, maybe on a rotating basis. If we can get a handful of churches that want to do this.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what we're in discussions with right now with some of our partners.
And what the churches in Aurora Grande are talking about is having a separate organization that they actually hire to watch them, police them, manage it, whatever term you want to use. But I think it'd be a good idea to have somebody there, a presence.
And that's, I think, what we're looking at as well. It would be managed by, potentially by like Capslo, who
Right.
already manages the one over at Fort
Right.
Prado.
Right, know what they're doing. A question I have, I walk most mornings, a couple miles, and I walk down Orchid. And what's going on with those lots right on Orchid Road? The ones that look like they're kind of in disarray. That's what I'm talking about, right by the roundabout.
That's the enclave. It was actually mentioned.
Yeah, but they built them and then they kind of have just stopped, and they kind of look like someone's lost interest or something in them.
So when we're heading, I guess, east on Orchid Road, but okay, so on the right there, are those,
Yeah.
My understanding is that the developer is not developing the actual homes.
Right, he's going to sell lots.
He will still, I think the concept is you can buy a house, you can buy a lot with a house plan, and they will build it for you.
Oh.
But they aren't going to build them and let them sit. Hopefully they sell. They're going to do it kind of as there's demand for it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, now I'm oriented to what we're talking about. There is a plan set in for model homes. So I saw somebody was plan checking on model homes. So there could be a few constructed to just for that purpose.
Yeah, it just seems they were plowing forward, and then about 3 months ago, maybe just because of winter, they just stopped, and they just kind of stopped. There's ladders out there, and they just kind of been sitting out there. But I thought the economy was too good for anybody to, go lose a project. So
I think it was the financing,
Yeah.
construction financing was potentially was the issue why this
Sure.
strategy is being pursued for those lots.
Yeah. On the decline of the building permits, wouldn't the economy have something to do with those also, besides some other factors? You see a decrease in building permits, the raise in interest rates.
Yeah, it could potentially play a factor in, we're coming off, highs in building permit issuance in the past few years. But that being said, for 2022, even though it's been a decrease, it's still strong in terms of permit issuance, and especially for residential units. Yeah,
it's very strong. I've just kind of I like to follow the, development and stuff throughout the country. And it just seems like it's a phenomenon throughout the country because of the high interest rates that some developers are building. So last month was really good. Kind of was a spike no one expected, but. All right, that's all the questions I have. Does any other commissioners have any questions?
I had a question, and this is a topic we've kind of touched on a couple of times tonight. I was looking, I think it's page 14 in the report. It talks about the city's strategic plan for homelessness. I'm a little more familiar with the county plan, and I was just wondering if you could speak to how they align, how they relate to each other, what the relationship is between the city and the county plan.
Yeah, happy to. Unless any, is that?
I mean, I think you're the
I'm the guy.
You had this conversation last night.
I just want to dominate.
I think you got this one.
All right. So last night, the city council adopted the city's first homelessness response strategic plan. And so it's been a great process of developing the strategic plan because we've been implementing as we go. So the strategic plan has a number of strategies. One of those is around pilot programs and, exhibiting success with pilot programs in the hope that they will be picked up by the county and proliferated countywide. So our mobile crisis unit that's based out of the fire department that sends an EMT and a social worker to calls, and it diverts law enforcement responses in some cases, is something that has been really successful in terms of both diverting those calls from law enforcement as well as just some of the outcomes that we've been able to achieve. And so that's one of the strategies that we have. And in terms of how we relate to the county's plan, we really, a big part of that was the timing. We didn't want to adopt a strategic plan ahead of the county. So we waited for the county to adopt its plan, which is a 5-year plan with the primary goal of reducing homelessness by 50% over the next 5 years. And that gave us like the core metric, because for us, it doesn't make sense to do anything different than the county. The county is the homeless services provider for the region. They get all the money from the mental health from the state for mental health services, for behavioral health services, which are such a core aspect of engaging and dealing with the homeless population. And so the ability to get people into services is, really about engaging on those topics. So we're in our strategic plan, and all of the strategies within it are intended to reinforce and support the county's ability to accomplish that larger metric of reducing homelessness by 50%.
And thank you. And I didn't get a chance to watch last night, as I promised. I wasn't consciously teeing you up to repeat what you may have said last night. One other thing too, and as I mentioned, thank you for the report. It's really helpful. I am sort of getting myself up to speed on some of the history of things. And one thing that caught my eye in the residential growth section is there was a mention of, construction, I think in the Orchid and Margarita areas that was delayed, but what had been anticipated since the 1994 general plan. And I was just wondering if you could give me some ideas, what sort of delays would, because that's nearly 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Margarita area plan and the Orchid area plan are very different from the specific plan areas that we had in the 2014 general plan. So if I compare Avila Ranch, San Luis Ranch to the Orchid area, Margarita area, what you see is that we had identified those areas for their potential in the 1994 general plan, but those were areas that had multiple property owners, all with very different ideas about how they wanted the area to develop. And I had the opportunity to work on the Orchid area specific plan between about 2001 and 2008. So very involved with all the property owners in there. And it's very much a negotiation about how facilities are provided and how, properties like the property that has the park, how they get reimbursed for the land dedication and, versus another property that gets to just build all housing units. So it's the complexity of the areas. And then there were other things that we have done, I think, to promote housing through a progressive fee structure, through affordable by design requirements, through a variety of, just streamlining the permit process itself. So there's a number of reasons why, but I would say like San Luis Ranch is unique because it was a single property owner. They came in with a sort of a time-limited investment fund. And so the goal of that project was to get in, build as many units as possible, which almost all of the permits for housing in San Luis Ranch have now been issued. And you see the results. They're developing in a really, in a pretty streamlined and fast manner. Avila Ranch is, there's 7 phases in Avila Ranch. It's, they're going very deliberately, phase by phase. It's a larger project, so it's going to take more time to build out. But again, it was a single property owner. So getting the entitlement done was lickety split compared to Margarita area and Orchid area, both of which also had issues with the airport land use plan overlays and the complexities for the planning there. So I would say it's the complexity, the varied property ownership, and the complexity of those plans relative to what our recent experience has been. We never anticipated having Orchid area development and Margarita area development happening at the same time, as Avila and San Luis Ranch, but that's the way it's going now.
No, that's very helpful. Thank you. And, it's just peculiarities of those areas and the existing ownership structure. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Okay, so where are we at here? I guess we need a motion and a second, unless there's any deliberation, before we have a roll call. And the motion is to accept the plan. Recommend the plan be accepted by the city council. Is that the motion? Yeah. So that's the motion.
So, sorry, the motion is to recommend that city council adopt it, not to receive and file.
It is a receive and file.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second for that?
And I will second that.
Okay, thank you very much. Will Deputy City Clerk please call the roll on the motion?
Commissioner Munoz Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen,
Yes.
Chair Khan.
Yes, motion passes. So now we move into section 5, common discussion. Would Community Development Director or Deputy Community Development Director Tyler please provide an update on future forecast?
All right, well, thanks, Chair, members of the commission. So 2 meetings in April. First meeting is, our next meeting is April 12th, and we have 3 items currently on our forecast for that hearing. We have the subdivision regulations updates, so that should be coming before you for consideration there. A lot of cleanup, as I think I mentioned before, just to be best practice, consistency with all the changes that have happened since it's been updated last regarding the Subdivision Map Act, and then just some additional additional regulations to address some of the more recent, I think, state legislation around small lot urban subdivisions. So we have a little more clarity on how those will be processed and reviewed. Second item we have is our cannabis overlay rezone. So this is for 2 newly annexed areas that were not previously in the overlay zones, which is the East Airport area and the Fierro Lane areas off of Broad Street. And finally, we have a consent item, which is a general plan conformity report for 1106 Walnut. And this is where the city is looking to acquire the property, and a conformity report is required before that can move forward. And then finally, we have 2 oaths of office at our next meeting. And then the second meeting in April, which is April 26th, we just have 1 item at this time, and it is the general plan conformity report for the 23-25 capital improvement program that goes along with the financial plan. And so that will be right now the only item I have for the 26th. And those are my updates on the forecast.
A question on that last item on the 26th. So that'll be a general plan conformity on the CIP program, right?
That's correct.
But it's not going to be approved by the city council until the city council approves the budget, right?
Correct.
So we just approve it in advance, and then the city council finals it.
You're not approving the plan. You're making a consistency determination that the plan's consistent with the city's general plan.
Okay, got it. Thank you. With that, the next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is scheduled for April 12th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in these chambers, the council chambers at City Hall, 990 Palm Street, San Luis Obispo. I hereby call this meeting adjourned.